Hello there. Welcome to the Tuesday Takeaway. So it is Tuesday, the 6th of June, and it's wonderful to have you joining me this kind of dull day. And I'm not sure if I'm live or not, so I am just going to speak for a moment or two and see whether I can see any comments coming up. So welcome. I might introduce the session. Okay, so let me just double check. Oh, fantastic. Hello there. Hi, Andrea. It's really good to have you. I've got an interesting one for you today. So let me introduce this session. Okay, so excellent to see you joining. Thank you for coming on. Welcome to this Tuesday Takeaway. It is wonderful to have you joining me live. Whether you are brand new to this format or whether you are an established member of our group, it's really, really good to be able to say hello to you today. So when you type hello into the comments, it allows you to continue to see these videos. But also, if you're watching on replay, if you type hashtag replay in, it does the same thing, and it enables me to come back later and see anything that you've commented and posted so that I can answer you back. And this is interactive, even if you're watching it later on. So those are my housekeeping elements for today. That's it. And we can just dive right in, which is wonderful. So June is the month for Silp School's summer intake to begin, which is really exciting. And in Silp School, we work with a case study. And this case study is the one that we use all the way through the programme. So we use it in different ways. But the one that I'm going to talk about today is that in true review style, we mimic the review, and we have 13 agency reports land into your inbox. So if you were the reviewer, this is exactly how it works. The reports come in and there's plenty of work to do when that happens. So you're kind of sitting, waiting for this to happen because you want to be able to get on and analyse and quality assure the IMR reports when they come in, or the agency reports, however you describe them. So we have it's a PDF document. It's called the scenario, and that it gives an overview of the case, and then landing into your inbox are these 13 agency reports. It's a moment where you can begin to see all the pieces of the jigsaw fit together. And that's one of the most illuminating moments within the review, because what you will have seen prior to that is quite scant in terms of detail. So one of the tasks in Silp School is that I would ask all the Silp trainees to basically quality assure these IMRs and give structured feedback to the IMR authors. So each time, what happens is each time the trainees come through with different points for the IMR authors to address. And, part of the art of doing this is the way that we ask for things. So there's a structure for them to give feedback to these IMR authors. And I thought it'd be really helpful to go through. I've extracted 13 issues, and these are the top 13 issues which impact on the quality of IMRs. And they're not pertinent. I asked for comments. They're not pertinent to Silp reviews. They're not pertinent to our case study either in Silp School. They're just comments from anyone who quality assures agency reports. So hopefully this is a much more holistic view for you about what's going on in the review world generally, and what people think is most often the issue with IMRs. So let me dive in. I would love to see your comments if you are following this, and whether you think, yeah, that resonates. Maybe that's, you know, a pothole that you often fall down if you're creating the IMR, or it's something that you see quite regularly if you quality assure IMRs. The first one is no clarity about terms of reference. And if the agency report is coming back to you and is not addressing the terms of reference, that's a real issue for the review. But there are two questions I would ask there. One is your IMR template, is your agency report template ensuring that the author must address the terms of reference? The SILP one does require that. Second point, and this has come through from our recent IMR author training, is that has this been communicated to the IMR authors before they sat down and put pen to paper for their report? Apparently, this isn't always happening. In a SILP review, that would happen at the agency report authors briefing, or just in advance of it. The authors have it in writing in advance, and then they discuss it at the agency report authors briefing. No agreed format for completion of the report. So where's the template? You know, we have one for SILP reviews. Where is your IMR author template? Absence of basic information. And this one is saying there was no chronology. Now, I prefer to work with some narrative wording rather than a chronology. And I also like that part of the report to be quite proportionate compared to the analysis part. So this is many quality assurance views, not necessarily mine. Not subject focused. So obviously some people have completed this to say child focused, but if you're a domestic homicide review or a safeguarding adults review, it's not focused on the subject of the review. So we might have plenty in there about services, but where was the subject? We've lost the subject in this report. Poor presentation. And I think what that is getting to, or my understanding of what that is getting to, is, you know, no page numbers, no paragraph numbers, the formatting, etc., makes it difficult to follow. No analysis or critique of practice. And I would say this is my number one issue with agency reports. So is the agency report focusing far too much on the what happened, with insufficient focus on why it happened? And we run specific training to help people to leave behind what is, it feels like a safer place to tell people what happened than really to dig in and to undertake that piece of analysis. So it's an art form, and it's something that authors and quality assurance professionals should definitely undertake some training and development in order to help them to do it. Narrow, simplistic approach. This concerns me as well, because to what extent have the IMR authors been prepared to understand the terms of reference and what the review expected them to address? So if they have a narrow and simplistic approach, I want to understand how well they were prepared for their task, first and foremost. This one, defensive stance, seeking to protect the agency from criticism. In terms of what comes across as a defensive IMR, I always think process really helps. And again, this is all within our training. It's within SILP School. It's within our Strong IMRs program. And I think that in order for the review not to have a disciplinary feel and to have a focus on learning, it's really important to follow certain steps in terms of the process. And if that's something that's coming across in IMRs that you are commissioning, writing, or quality assuring, you know, talk to us about about what we offer to help with that. Authors not competent to judge practice failings. Now, again, this is a governance issue. So in my 5 pillars, this comes under governance. So exactly who is writing the IMR in relation to their position within or outside of that agency. So when I commission an IMR for my review, I am saying, you're the expert in your field, you're the expert in your agency. So I'm relying on you to tell me how best practice looks. And if that author isn't best placed to do that, we need to think about that from the start and make sure the person who is best placed to do that writes the report. And I know that some of this is really hard because it's not always perfect who's around and who's available to do the piece of work, but at least we could ensure they have the right support to be able to do that. Key issues missed, not recognised, not addressed. And again, this for me can be helped by the structure of the template that you're working to. 2 more. Inadequate or absence of recommendations. And recommendations for me, again, are an art form. If I look back at early recommendations that I made, they weren't strong. And, I understand if you haven't received that development work on your recommendations that this isn't easy and you're doing your best. However, I'm going to give you 3 points today for recommendations, and I'm also going to recommend that you consider one of the forms of training with us, which will offer you a whole module on recommendations. I recommend SILP School for that because we're going to spend a lot of time on recommendations, but also we do have the Strong IMRs program too. I'm going to ask that the SILP School details are posted in the comments now, if I may, because I'm referring to this training a lot and perhaps people are thinking, I really want to see what this is about. So if we could post that now, that would be extremely helpful. Okay, so no action plan or process for monitoring and review. So when I set out the agency report template for a SILP review, I require this to be done in a table format so that you can't miss out any of the domains. So we're already in action planning mode, which means our recommendations are implementable later by those people who are going to be creating an action plan. So I think the only way to not leave something out is to have a table form within your IMR template. That's my recommendation for that one. And then with recommendations themselves, 3 points for you. 3 questions to ask yourself. You write your recommendation out in its draft 1, and then you ask yourself 3 questions like a checklist to check back. So you say, what, by whom, when. And that isn't foolproof, but it will get you very, very far. And I can't download to you an entire module on recommendations now, of course, but those 3 questions, check back when you've written out your recommendation in its version 1. And then my second tip is in the what, as in what's got to be done, don't conflate 2. Don't conflate 2 things that you want people to do into one. Make them into separate recommendations because that's something that we see a lot. Okay. That was a lot there in terms of what people find as issues in IMRs. So I'm going to talk to you now about what you can do if you want to develop yourself further. We have got, so June is the big month. June is the big month for the summer intake. And there's a link to the page with all the dates, the investment. I've posted recently to say if the investment is an issue, still come on to a call with me. I think Kelly's going to post the book and call details shortly. You can use that link or you can just send me a DM if you want to speak because we're trying to make it as accessible as we can. making payments plans as generous as we can, and looking at all sorts of things to help you to get on there. In that 18-week program, you're going to have the orientation phase over 6 weeks. You're going to have 6 core modules. You're going to have a simulated learning event, and you will submit an assignment. And then the first year is free in Momentum if you join in June. So for 12 months, the whole 12 months in the container with us, you'll see all the review opportunities come through, including mentored review opportunities, and you'll be in quarterly masterminds with the experienced team of reviewers. So we'll sit down and look at a case and do group supervision or experiential learning, as we call it. The course price is $3,245 plus VAT. There is a 9-month payment plan. There is a 12-month payment plan, which involves putting down a £99 deposit. And the way to find out if you are eligible or not, you can get an on-the-spot assessment of your eligibility by using the form that's about to be posted shortly into the comments. And we'll let you know on the spot if you're suitable or not, if you just want to know that way without getting onto a call with me. So the doors actually close next week to learn with me in Silk School. And I know there's so much talent out there that could be offered to the world of reviews. As people are joining currently, they're talking to me about their background. The diverse backgrounds who are joining us for this summer intake are just unbelievable. So just spending the time together over that 18 weeks, to me, feels like it's hugely important to have spent the time learning with those people in community, because the conversations are unfolding in a really inspiring way. Let me tell you that to start with. So I'll close by telling you about the 2 free training offerings we've got coming up as well. We've got one in June, one in July. The first one is called How to Analyse the Relationship Between Intimate Partner Violence, Suicidality and Self-Harm. And that one is on the 29th of June at 1 p.m. And of course, part of what we're going to talk about is victim blaming language. So victim blaming language detracts from us creating a society where people think it's okay to ask for help. And we're going to explore things like what internal biases we each carry around that influence our perception about self-harming behaviour. So these are big questions. We're going to examine the relationship between these 3 problems, and we know that they're not linearly progressive, so there's complexity around that. So this is with myself and Estella Capellas Barbosa, who conducted the first ever research to consider the relationship between these problems. I strongly recommend that you check the details of that one and sign up if you would like to attend. And then finally, the July offering. This is on the 12th of July, 1 p.m. and it is called How to Get Started with the Welsh Single Unified Safeguarding Review. Now, myself and Leanne James, who is project lead for the Welsh Single Unified Safeguarding Review, will be letting you know how the consultation unfolded. That consultation ends in 3 days if you would like to feed into it. Leanne's going to listen to your opinions about it. She's going to take you through the review model. And we're going to talk about things like what it means to have this central repository of all the recommendations, how that changes the review up. She's being asked all the time whether it's coming to England. She's being asked all the time whether she can use it. People can use it straight away. She's going to answer all of those questions that I think people are asking her a lot currently. So pencil that in, the 12th of July, 1 o'clock in your diary. You can see the link coming up now. And also, yeah, I think that's a good one to click on and try to attend, because that's a really exciting development in my opinion. And I'm such a stickler about review models. I love that. I love this model. It's so, well, it's really similar to what we do. It's so similar to SILP, which obviously is very good news. So that's all I've got to say. I'm rattling through this quickly because I always try to keep Tuesday Takeaway to a 30-minute maximum. I hope this has been valuable for you. And I'll keep an eye on the comments to see whether you want to ask me anything. But check for all the links and see whether there's anything you'd like to get involved in. I'm going to end the broadcast in a better way than I'm doing currently, but I'll be here again next week, Tuesday at 1:30.